The police in Edo State have arrested 7 suspected thugs in connection with detention in the House of Assembly in Benin City on Thursday. Hi, welcome to What's Happening. These are the top 10 stories now. At number 10, 6 months after Egypt reported the first confirmed case of coronavirus in Africa, the continent has so far confirmed more than 1 million cases. According to the data released on Thursday by the African Center for Disease Control, about 1,054,000 people across the continent have been infected and 21,724 have died from the virus. The virus had spread to all 54 countries in Africa, with South Africa as the 5th worst hit country globally. At number 9, Mark Zuckerberg's net worth has hit $100 billion 16 years after he co-founded Facebook from his university dorm room. According to Sky News, the latest boost to Zuckerberg's wealth came after Facebook launched a new short-form video feature on Wednesday. The new Instagram Reels is a rival to Chinese app TikTok. The development prompted Facebook shares to jump more than 6% on Thursday, having risen by almost 30% this year. Zuckerberg's personal wealth has gained about $22 billion this year. At number 8, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the extension of the current phase of eased lockdown and curfew by another 4 weeks. This means all the guidelines put in place to curtail further spread of the virus in the country will remain in place with slight modifications to address the economic, socio-political and health concerns as contained in the latest report by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. This was disclosed on Thursday by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the PTF, Boss Mustafa, at the briefing of the task force in Abuja. The federal government has also mandated the state government and the FCT to enforce non-pharmaceutical guidelines, primarily the use of face masks, especially in public places. At number 7, on Thursday, a popular businessman in Benue State, Isaac Akinkumi, urged the federal government to legalize guns in the hands of credible users for self-defense in the face of rising insecurity in the country. Akinkumi, who was released from kidnappers' den after 3 days in captivity a fortnight ago, said it became necessary to advocate for the legalization of guns for credible persons because attackers were taking advantage of defenseless citizens to cause avoidable harms. He said this when officials of the Benue State Motorcycle Association Makurdi branch paid him a solidarity visit at his office. At number 6, a new study on Thursday revealed that people who are infected with the coronavirus carry similar levels of the pathogen in their nose, throat and lungs, whether they have symptoms or not. The study from South Korea, published in JAMA Internal Medicine, is an important biological line of evidence in support of the idea that asymptomatic carriers can still spread COVID-19. A team of researchers analyzed swabs taken between March 6th and March 26th from 303 people isolated at a center in Cheonan. Of the total, 193 were symptomatic and 110 were asymptomatic. Among those who were initially asymptomatic, 89 never developed symptoms at all, about 30% of the total. At number 5, the United Arab Emirates has debunked claims of placing travel restrictions on Nigeria. This was disclosed by its embassy in Abuja on Thursday, noting that unverified claims of suspension of different categories of visas to Nigerians after Hush Puppy's arrest for alleged fraud were not true. The statement stressed that the UAE only took a number of precautionary measures to combat the spread of coronavirus, including the temporary suspension of issuing visas for all nationalities as of March 17, 2020. It said the travel between the UAE and Nigeria had remained limited due to the closure of Nigerian airspace, adding that the UAE embassy in Abuja was working closely with the Nigerian government to obtain the necessary approvals to facilitate travel between the two countries. At number 4, about 12,000 South Korean trainee doctors went on strike on Friday, protesting outside the parliament against the government's plan to boost the number of medical students in the country, saying it would be a poor use of additional funding for the sector. The government said its goal to increase the number of medical students by 4,000 over the next 10 years was necessary in order to prepare for public health crises like the coronavirus pandemic. But the student doctors said the extra funding would be better spent improving the salaries of existing trainees, which would encourage them to move out of Seoul to rural areas where more professionals are needed. Prime Minister Chung Se-kyung had urged the intern and resident doctors to call off the 24-hour strike, which comes as South Korea battles smaller but persistent clusters of COVID-19 infections. At number 3, a court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting at the Eagle Square in Abuja has convicted popular music artist Aziz Fashola, aka Naira Marley, for violating provisions of the COVID-19 Regulations 2020. Naira Marley, arraigned before Magistrate Idiyat Akani, pleaded guilty to the 4-count charge filed against him. The charges brought against Naira Marley were violating presidential ban on interstate travel, not wearing a face mask contrary to the presidential order imposing compulsory wearing of face mask on all persons within Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, violating social distance order, as well as violating the dusk to dawn curfew in the territory. On June 13, Naira Marley and his crew flew into Abuja from Lagos to perform a drive-in concert at Jabi Lake Mall. Magistrate Akani has consequently found him guilty and ordered him to pay the sum of 50,000 naira for each of the counts, as well as tender a public apology to the federal government of Nigeria in a national daily. At number 2, the Nigeria Labour Congress has urged the management of Air Peace, Turkish Air and Bristol Helicopters to reinstate all the sacked workers within 2 weeks. In a statement on Friday, the NLC president, Mr. Ayuba Waba, condemned the recent sack of 100 pilots by Air Peace, 69 pilots by Bristol Helicopters, and the sack of the National Union of Air Transport Employees Executives working with Turkish Air. The NLC president said the sack was traumatic for workers who are still undergoing psychological and socio-economic difficulties imposed by the recent lockdown measures. He said that the sack was highly insensitive, callous, and unjust. Finally, at number 1, the police in Edo State have arrested 7 suspected thugs in connection with detention in the House of Assembly in Benin City on Thursday. The suspected thugs had reportedly prevented the 17 elected lawmakers who attempted to make their way to the House for plenary early on Thursday. The lawmakers were said to have retreated to an undisclosed location in Benin City, where they elected a new speaker, Mr. Victor Edoro, and impeached Mr. Frank Okie. The thugs were arrested with 5 double-barrel long guns, 2 single-barrel long guns, and 10 live cartridges within the premises of the Assembly complex. However, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has ordered the Inspector General of Police to provide security for the 17 Edo All Progressives Congress lawmakers. Always remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and stay safe. That's all for today. See you next time on What's Happening.